How to pass the ASQ exam with little stress. I'm going to share with you on some tips on how to nail this exam with a very high passing rate, both the CSSBB, which is a black belt, and CSSGB. So at the present moment, before we start, I would like you to switch off your phones, go to a quiet place, make sure you're not disturbed, and have full concentration with me for the next few minutes, because this could make the difference between passing or failing. Hi, I'm CK. My name is CK Wong. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. I have been training and coaching students, adult students, in Asia for the last 5 years on how to pass the ASQ exam. And I will share with you the tips on how to do it. So, as I mentioned, let's get rolling, but focus on this. Now, most of my students who has been taken this or has taken the ASQ exam, they fail. Yeah, they fail. So, the passing rate of the ASQ exam is about 30%. So after I walk through them on the strategies involved, which I will share with you in a short while, most of my students will pass with 95%. One time, usually the first time, they will pass it. So what does this mean? What it means here in this case that taking the ASQ exam is not your ordinary exam in university or maybe in high school, because there's a strategy involved. You cannot use the same strategy that you use to study in schools or in university or institute of higher learnings, right? So please listen carefully to the strategy that I would like with you, and I am sure and I will assure you that you get value from here on how to pass the exam. I'm going to walk through you slowly on all the steps involved. Now, if you like this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and at the end of the video, just send me your comments. All right, let's get rolling now. So I'm going to walk through with you on 6 steps. In fact, in front of me, I have my steps laid out. So I'll be referring to them and I will share this with you. Now, just take note, there are 6 steps involved. These are crucial steps that I've outlined, I've studied in detail. And if you follow these steps, you will get it. And you will be able to increase your confidence. And one more thing about ASQ exam is all about confidence, you know. You got to have confidence before you go for the exam. If you're nervous, you're going to lose. You're going to fail. So to get confidence, you have to trust. You've got to have a strategy. And with the strategy, you're going to get it. All right? So what are the 6 steps? So get your pen and paper ready. Step number 1, you got to have your body of knowledge, which is called a primer. Okay, the Quality of Indiana Council Primer, which is what I usually recommend, is the thick book. So the primer is your body of knowledge that you have to have it, because that is where you do most of your reading. Okay, step number 2 is about time management. Time management in the exam. Step number 3, test strategies that you have to employ when you take those questions. Step number 4, you got to have a cheat sheet ready. A cheat sheet basically is a summary of all the tables, statistical tables, the formulas, the calculation steps, the definitions. The cheat sheet is crucial, definitely crucial, and it's going to be very, very helpful for you if you have a cheat sheet. You cut down your time to look through the primer and checking for the answer. So I went through 4 steps: primer, time management, test strategy, cheat sheet. Step number 5, you got to practice the ASQ questions. Okay, so I have a library of simulated questions. Okay, how ASQ ask it. So the more you practice, the better you are. Those are basically model questions. All right, and the last one is what to bring in for the exam. Right, so you got to prepare your list of so-called portfolio of things that you want to bring in for the exam. So altogether, there are 6 steps. All right, I repeat: there's a primer, there's time management, there's a test strategy, there's a cheat sheet, there is practice ASQ questions, and what to bring in for the exam. Now for today's video, I'm going to share with you on the primer, time management, and the test strategy. So here's where I'll give some tips, okay? The rest of the other items, I will do it in another part video, right? So this is my second part in a series that I'm doing this video on how to pass ASQ exam. Now, at the end of this video, there is a link. You just have to find the link below, click on the link, and you can register for my masterclass. It's free. The masterclass is free, whereby I will walk through with you on these 6 steps in more detail. This is where I will be able to share with you in more details, so that will help you to so-called unravel some of your misunderstandings, okay? So please remember, click the link below and register for the free masterclass, okay? All right, let me go through the primer first. Now, the primer basically is a body of knowledge, right? So this is what you're going to do is that you have to spend time with the primer, like almost like your girlfriend and boyfriend or your husband and wife, isn't it? Okay, so what is the usual time I tell my students? You're going to spend 30 minutes a day reading the primer, 30 minutes a day. So you have to go through the primer at least 7 times. 7 times you're going to go through the primer, at least 7 times, okay? It is crucial for you to know your primer from front to the back. So you spend 30 minutes a day reading the primer, okay? And if it's possible, go and find a study group. Find a study group, work through with them, because study group will help you to encourage each other and bring up questions. And I find it very, very helpful to have a study group, okay? So the primer, I walk through with you, spend some time on the primer. Now, I'm going to come to the so-called time management, all right? Time management. So let me go to time management now. All right. Now, this is important. Please take note. There are altogether 150 questions. You have 4 hours to finish it. So if you work the mathematics, it sounds like you take about, let's say, 1 minute or more, right? In fact, 1.5 minutes. I've done the mathematics, 1.5 minutes per question. That is not how you should so-called address the questions. Because the question itself, though there are 150 questions, they are basically 3 groups of questions. So take note now, 3 groups of questions. So you cannot spend equal time for all of them. You cannot complete, right? And one more thing I want to share with you is that people ask me, CK, what is the passing mark for ASQ? My answer is I don't know. I don't know what's the passing mark. But based on my years of experience, I can give you an educated guess. An educated guess of the passing mark. I think the passing mark is 80%. Yeah, it's very high. Okay, that's why many students fail, 80%. So it is important that your time management is crucial. Okay, and usually I would tell you, when you do your questions, allow 30 minutes remaining to check your answers. 30 minutes. That means you should finish it within 3.5 hours, not 4 hours, okay? 3.5 hours you should finish it and leave 30 minutes for your checking. So time management is crucial, all right? So I say there are 150 questions, there are 3 groups of questions. The first group, I call it the logic questions. Logic questions. What's the logic questions? Logic questions are questions that the minute you look at it, you don't have to refer to the book. Now you can bring in any books you want into the exam because it's open test, right? It's open book. So you don't have time even to give you open book to check it. All right? So the first group of questions is called logic question. When you look at it, you got to know the answer. No time for checking, okay? Logic questions. So the second group is, I call it the lookup questions. The lookup question. This is where you have to look up to find the answer because you can't remember everything, right? So you have to look up. And the third group of questions are called calculation questions. Calculation questions. Now, each of this group, the time taken is different. Okay, so I'm going to share with you what's the time taken that you should be approaching this. Okay, now before I share with you, I want to tell you that since the 150 questions, if you look at the primer, In the primer, there are altogether 9 sections. 9 sections, okay? Starting from the enterprise-wide deployment, process management, team management, ending up with design for Six Sigma, right? Now, how much time should you spend on these 9 sections? Typical questions I got, right? So I want to share with you 150 questions. Most of the questions, okay, most of the question means 75% of the questions come from how many sections? Come from typically about, I would say, 5 sections. Even though there are 9, 5 sections is like a Pareto principle, okay? 5 sections will take up about 75% of the questions. So you should be concentrating on those 5 sections, right? Now, so what are 5 sections? I want to tell you now. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. These are the 5 sections you should be spending more time. So the remaining sections, the other 4 sections, does it mean that you spend less time? Yes, you spend less time, but you still got to read it. Remember I told you read the primer 7 times? Because there are questions that will come from the remaining 4, even though it's lesser. So remember, the goal is to pass exam. Every question needs to be answered. Every question, you got to try and get it right. Because the passing mark, my educated guess was 80%, right? So you must get it right. But focus on those 5. But the remaining 4, you still got to read it. You still got to get used to it, okay? So I mentioned to you already the breakdown of the questions, okay? So now, how about the time management? So I said that there's logic, there's lookup, there's calculation. So what is the breakdown of the questions in these 3 groups, right? So the logic question, about 120 questions. About 120 questions. The lookup, about 20 questions. And the calculation, about 10 questions. That brings 150. I say about because ASQ will change the mix. But more or less, it won't change that much. It's approximately this amount. So when you look through the questions, 150 in the exam, you will not find all the calculation together. It's kind of mixed bag, you know. But most of them will be the logic questions, right? So when you go through the exam, the questions, look for the logic question first. So when you come across something which is lookup and calculation, skip it. Do not attempt it. Why? Because momentum is crucial. Confidence is crucial. Okay? Don't attempt at calculation questions and you spend more than 5 minutes and then you get stuck, you get frustrated. It will kind of erode your confidence and your morale, right? So go to the logic questions and quickly go through it, okay? So there are 120 questions. My recommendation to you is take about 2 hours. 2 hours, right? To go through the logic questions, right? So after you finish logic question, the second priority is the lookup questions. There are about 20 questions I say. So this will take you about 80 minutes. 80 minutes for about 20 questions. Why does it take so long compared to logic? Because logic, when you see it, you can nail it down. You know the answer. Okay? Whereas the lookup, you got to go back to the primer to check it, right? Now, this is why I'm going to give you a strategy on how to cut down your lookup time. Okay, I'm going to give you the cut down of time. So listen to the strategy. Number 1, okay, in your primer, as you are reading it, tick out from the primer some of the pages so that you don't have to look up into the primer book, which is so thick. Take it out and bring it for the exam. Okay, when you take out those primer, we call it the critical stack. The critical stack. Create your critical stack for you to easy to reference. All right, so when you do the test, you don't have to look through the primer to look up. You just go to the critical stack. Okay, it cuts down a lot of time. The second essential is the cheat sheet. The cheat sheet. I have prepared a cheat sheet. All right, and at the end of this video, you will find that there's another video that you can go and check on my cheat sheet. Right, the cheat sheet will give you. I remember I told you all the formulas, the tables, so I'll not repeat that. That will cut down your so-called lookup time. Okay, it's really essential for you to get hold of the cheat sheet. Okay, so the last one is a calculation question. There's about 10 questions, right? Spend about 40 minutes there. 40 minutes to do the calculation. Now, please listen carefully. You might be able to get some wrong answers for the so-called logic. And for the lookup, even though you look up, there's a chance you might get 1 or 2 wrong. All right? But the calculation, your strategy is to get every single question. It's only about 10 questions correct. You cannot afford to get it wrong. Because the calculation, okay, is kind of like your cash cow. When you do it, you know you'll be right, okay? So in my cheat sheet, you also find I have given calculation examples and how to walk through the steps that will help you to nail the calculation questions correct. And the cheat sheet actually basically is geared towards how ASQ asks those questions also, okay? So I summarize, there's a logic, there's a lookup, there's a calculation. Each of them requires different timing, all right? Start with the logic first. Then when you come across a lookup or calculation, skip it, then go back to do the lookup and then do the calculation later, all right? Now please remember, one more thing. Every question must be answered. Do not leave anything blank, okay? Do not leave anything blank. You must answer. Now, if you find certain questions you're not sure, remember I said leave 30 minutes at the end to check. Put a certain so-called symbol next to the question mark. That will help you to go back and check those that you're not sure, all right? Okay? So, I went through with you on the groups and the timing, okay? So now I want to give you some test strategy. Remember I tell you I'm going to walk through you on the primer, the time management, and now I walk through you on some test strategy, okay? So now this is the important section here, so listen carefully on this test strategy. Okay, so I'm going to put this in a bigger, all right. So for test strategy, you know, for those logic questions, right? Usually when you look at it, there's only one which is correct, all right? So I'm going to talk about, let me tell you, let me see here, all right? Now, here are some tips for test strategy for logic questions. For ASQ questions, when they go through, when they send you a question, please do not use your philosophy or your company's policy to do the question. You have to get into ASQ system. ASQ, when they give you questions, when you look at the answers, you might think B is correct because based on your past experience or based on what you learn from other books or your company training, right? Okay, it doesn't work. You've got to understand what ASQ wants. So ASQ have certain value systems, all right? So what is a value system? Please write this down, okay? They like to hear things like employee empowerment. They like to hear things like upstream solve the problem, okay? Design engineering is important. More communication is better. Profitable organizations, okay? They like to use the word continuous improvement. So look for these keywords, all right? When you find these keywords, likelihood that is the answer. They like to use the word facilitators, okay? Group dynamics is good, all right? Group dynamics. So like remember, please don't use your own concept or your own environment to answer this. Use ASQ value systems. Helping others to solve problems is another thing they like to hear. Voice of customers, they like it. Problem solving using the objective way. That's another one. One more thing is system thinking. Rather than people solving problems, they like systems thinking. So here are some of the tips when you answer those questions for logic questions. Okay. Later, I walk through with you on some ASQ model questions, and I will explain to you how to use the value system. All right. Another logic question is that they like to ask questions like least important, except, not this. Okay, so look for questions like least, except, or not. Now, when you look at these questions, the trick is to do this. Go through the 4, usually it's 4. They give you 4 multiple so-called choice, multiple choice, 4, choose one of them, right? So A, B, C, D. So when you look at questions like least, except, and not, look at those 4 questions. Do not choose one right away. Read all the questions. So when you read all the questions, find the one which doesn't belong to the mix. I call it the oddball. That is the correct answer. So this is referring to least, except, or not, right? Another thing about questions which have, remember the 4 multiple choice, okay? Some of them will say always, some of them will say never, right? So when you ever see multiple choice with the word always or never in the multiple choice, do not choose it. Even though you think it's correct, okay? Do not choose it, right? Now, I'm not saying by employing this method, you're going to get 100% correct, okay? I'm not saying that. But there's a very high chance if you use this strategy, you're going to get it right. Okay? Of course, sometimes you won't get it right. So, but at least you'll cut down your time for thinking too much, right? So, earlier I said about least, except, not. The second one I told you is always and never, right? Usually, answers with the word maybe usually is the right answer, okay? So in other words, general answers are better than specific, all right? Specific, general answers. Okay. So I have given you some ideas. So let me walk through you on some ASQ questions that might help you a bit, put you in a better framework. So let's see what I have here. Okay. All right, so here. Let's see, okay, here. I have one question here. Look at this. The primary factor, this is an ASQ question. I mean, it's a model question. It's not an actual ASQ question, right? The primary factor in the successful implementation of Six Sigma is to have A, necessary resources, B, the support and leadership of top management, C, explicit customer requirements, D, a comprehensive training program. Now, if you look through all these 4 answers, I am sure all of them are actually right. Yes. And in fact, in your training, maybe in your company or past training, some of the trainers may say, this is the correct answer. So now you have your mental map of what the correct answer is. Remember, when you answer ASQ exam, you have to use ASQ mental map. Okay? Remember I told you just now earlier, communication, top management, group dynamics, okay? So if you look at this one, B is the correct answer, the support and leadership of top management. ASQ like the word top management. All right? So B is the correct answer. Let me give you another one so you get your understanding here. All right. If a process follows an exponential distribution with a mean of 25, what is the standard deviation for the process? Now, this particular one is also a logic question, all right? So this one, when you look at this question, right, you got to know the answer. You got to know the answer. It's nothing to do with ASQ value system, all right? If you read through the primer enough, you know what is the answer, okay? A is 0.4, B is 5, C is 12.5, D is 25. So the answer is 25. That is something that you don't have to think too much. So there are logic questions that you've got to know the answer. You don't have to check, all right? Let me try another one. Here, remember I talked about least? Least, except, or not? Here's one question. Which of the following types of variation is least likely to occur in sequential repetitions of a process over a short period of time? Right? A, cyclical. B, positional. C is temporal. D is seasonal. By the way, this is a multivariate analysis. Okay? In case you don't know, it's multivariate analysis. Now, if you look through this, remember I told you the technique for this one is that find the oddball out, right? So in a multivariate analysis, all right, there is such thing called cyclical, positional, and temporal. There's no such thing called seasonal. Yeah, that's the oddball out. So when you look at this, remember read every question, look at this. Seasonal is an oddball out. Choose D. Okay, that's the trick or that's the tip on how you approach such questions, okay? Now, let me pick maybe 1 or 2 more to give you an idea what I'm talking about, right? All right, let's see. Let's see. All right, okay. This question, the failure of any organization quality improvement effort is most frequently caused by, here will be inability to manufacture product cost effectively, A. B. Selection of initial objective and projects that are too complex. C. Use of an improvement strategy that fits poorly with the process. D. Lack of involvement by top and middle management. Now remember I told you ASQ like the word management. If you look through A, B, C, D, in fact all of them are correct. Okay, all of them actually is a failure of affects quality improvement effort failures, all right? But ASQ likes the word top management, so go for the word top and middle management. So the answer here in this case is 10D, all right? Okay, I think you get the point, right? Okay, one more last question. This is interesting, right? You will frequently get questions like 1 and 2, 3 and 4, all of the above, this kind of questions, right? People take 5 minutes and still cannot find the answer, isn't it? So I'm going to give you a trick for this. Which of the following are correct statements about systems and processes? 1, 2, 3, 4. A is 1 and 2, B is 1, 2 and 4, C 1, 3 and 4, D is 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? So how do you approach this? So I'm going to read for you the answers, okay? So I'm going to give you the technique only. So what you're going to do is that when you look through 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the questions, read through every answer, okay? Do not choose the one that you like. Don't do that. Read through every answer, and what you're going to do is that after reading all the answers, you use the elimination method. Elimination method, yeah. Don't go for the best answer. No, go for the elimination method. Find the answer which is totally not possible. Eliminate that out. Subsequently, go for the next that you think you can eliminate. So in these questions 1, 2, 3 and 4, I have eliminated 3 and 4. So once I eliminated 3 and 4, I look through A, B, C, D. Anything that has 3 and 4, I will not choose it. Yeah, I will not choose it. So whatever is remaining, usually whatever is remaining, that is the correct answer. Sometimes you get 2 remaining, right? Then you have a choice. You have to choose one of them. But most of the time, you're going to get 1 remaining, right? So that will really cut down your time. Remember I talked about time management? This will help you to cut down your time, okay? All right. So I have given you some ways of how to do time management, all right? Okay. So now what have I gone through with you so far? All right. Let me just summarize a little bit here. Okay. So I talked about just now, there are 6 steps, isn't it? 6 steps, yeah. So what are 6 steps? Primer, time management. I walked through time management with you. Test strategy, I walked through. I didn't walk through everything about test strategy. There's a lot more about that, but these tips will help you get you somewhere, some direction. But as I said earlier, okay, click the link below at the end of this video, and you will sign up for register for my free masterclass, whereby I will dive deeper into these 6 steps. That will bring you to the next higher step, bring you closer to where you want to get to, okay? Right. And the 4th step is a cheat sheet, which I did not cover at all. But in my video, click on the cheat sheet, and then you would be able to so-called watch my video on the cheat sheet. And the other one is practice ASQ questions and what to bring in for the exam, right? What to bring in for the exam. So I'm going to walk through with you now what to bring in for the exam. This is important. Never bring in a whole load of books because you're not going to refer to it. Remember, I tell you, look up. You have no time for look up, right? So don't make yourself simplify the number of things that you want to have on your table. Remember, I told you what you want to bring in. I'm going to tell you now. Okay, take note of this one. Bring in your primer. Definitely bring in your cheat sheet. Bring in your critical stack. Remember critical stack, the one that you took off from the primer. All right. And also bring in your statistical tables. You know, the Z table, the P table, the T table, the F table. Bring it, but don't leave it in the primer because you have no time to check it, right? So bring it up, separate it up, and of course you need a calculator. And something about calculator, please, you got to get used to your calculator. You cannot fiddle around a calculator for a few seconds and figure out how it works, right? So you got to get used to the calculator. All right. So primer, cheat sheet, the critical stack, statistical table, and the calculator. And as far as critical stack is concerned, remember I told you bring out. Also, I have prepared actually. I prepared for my past students on the primer summary. Instead of looking at the primer, I created a summary of the 9. Remember I told you there are 9 sections. I created a summary for easy for them to look up. Instead of going to the primer to check again, looking at the summary, they know where to get the answer. It's as easy as just finding the answer right away. It's very easy. Okay, so I created some form of a summary, primer summary. I created tables, right? For tables for them, for students to find ease of nailing down the questions. Okay, so for example, I'll give you for example. Now you can, why I'm telling this, because you can prepare it yourself, right? Remember, time is crucial. Huh? So for example, I created a sheet called team management. Remember, one of the sections is called team management. Huh? Okay, one mention team management. So for example, team management, there are such thing called planning tools. Planning tools. Huh? Okay, and this is every year ASQ have such question on team management, right? So you got to get used to this. For example, prioritization. What are planning tools? Prioritization matrix, the matrix diagram, the tree diagram, and the interrelation diagram, the process decision program chart. So what I created here is that each one of them has different characteristics, right? So I created some form of a table. So relationship is a matrix, numerics, arithmetics, ranking, legend, types of matrices, organization, order, levels. So by looking at this table, you can essentially find out if the question is asking you which of these has numeric and relationship. When you look at the table, you know which of the two that you should be choosing, right? Okay. If you read through the primer, it's going to be quite mind-boggling because you read through every sentence, every line, right? So these are some of the things that you can so-called prepare for yourself to bring in for the exam. Huh? All right. So I come to the end of the today's video on how to pass ASQ exam with little stress. I hope this has been useful for you. All right, and what I going to do in my next session or my next so-called part of the series is that I'm going to give a free so-called masterclass on all these 6 steps to help you to bring it to the next level. So remember to just click the link below to sign up and leave your comments, and I will see you the next time. All right. So I wish you all the best, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Bye bye.